We have a really special guest today, don't we?
We do. We do. We have Lily Foss. Lily is a first term state level representative, and she is a powerhouse and advocate for inclusivity, which hits very close to home for me, coming from a neurospicy family and also being the parent of a neurodivergent kid and having a background in education. So I appreciate Representative Foss and all that she does. And Lily, we're really happy to have you here with us today.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
So, Lily, we're going to dive right in because I know it's been really intense for you in Concord with everything that's
hmm
happening. So, if you can give us just a quick overview of what inspired you to get involved, and then let's dive into what's happening from a legislative perspective.
Sure. So I've been wanting to get involved in politics ever since I can remember. I was 5 during the run up to the 1996 presidential, and I made like Bill Clinton campaign signs with magic marker. They were not spelled very well, and I posted them around our apartment. So it's always been something that I knew I wanted to get involved with. My parents just raised me with that sense of responsibility. Um, so I have bounced around a little bit, had a lot of different jobs, lived in a couple different states, but if you're going to get into involved in politics, why would you want to be anywhere except for New Hampshire? So came back, ran for the state house. Now I'm here.
Right. And you're in Manchester, right?
I am. I represent Manchester wards 2, 4, 5, and 7.
Yeah,
So
that's incredible. And so I know people have signed up to run right now from the from for state level positions. And so from your perspective, what would you say to people that are getting into this right now and to encourage them to know that their voices matter, even when things seem challenging in Concord?
right. I'm actually trying to recruit one of my friends to run because one of my running mates is not running again. She just can't make it work with her job. So I've been strategizing on how I can make this seem appealing. And I lie, it sucks some of the time. You
Right.
just, you have the best possible policies and the voters want them, but it's just special interests and people talking out of both sides of their mouth and just the lies, and it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
But the most important part, I think, for me is, first of all, thinking it's the midterms. Maybe we can flip the house, and I'm going to do all this stuff when I'm in the majority, and it's going to be so great. And we're going to get rid of the ban on gender affirming care for minors, and we're going to fund public schools. So the daydreaming about what will get done is nice. But just
Now,
finding
that
your people.
yeah. Yeah, but
Oh,
I'm really
Yeah.
interested in
continue.
this because you talk about special interest groups. Explain that to us. How even politics in New Hampshire, we're not even talking about the federal government, politics in New Hampshire, how special interest groups and certain things end up moving the needle of things happening.
Right.
What have you seen so far?
Yeah. So that is really frustrating. And so I had a bill, just a really, I hate when people say common sense bills because it's just overplayed, but it was a pretty common sense bill.
Well, it's
I'm a
basic,
renter.
right? It's
Yeah,
foundational.
exactly. I'm a renter. Uh, I live in New Hampshire. It snows here. And snow removal is not, the responsibility is not assigned by state law like it is in most other states. Responsibility in terms of like, okay, who actually has to shovel, the property owner or the tenant? In most states, it's the property owner. And, that makes sense because my landlord is responsible for all the other maintenance. It's like the only good thing about renting. So I saw that gap. I was living in an apartment where snow removal was not included in the lease. I've lived there for 3 years, and this lease we just signed in December is the first time snow removal has been in there. So when I moved in, I asked, okay, what's the provisions for snow removal? And my property manager said, just move all 3 of your cars into the driveway and it'll be covered up. No. Last year I got stuck. I had to have two just passers-by help me push my car out of my driveway because there was a giant chunk of ice stuck behind it.
Right, because like the
Um,
plows come by and push all of that in, right? And we're looking at places
exactly.
like Manchester, Concord, Portsmouth,
Yeah.
Dover, Durham, Rochester, like all these
Yeah,
towns where you do have a good amount of rental space, which we need in New Hampshire, right? And
absolutely.
we're experiencing the snow, right?
And I
Yeah.
we didn't realize that the shovel we had been using was my upstairs neighbor. They just kept it next to the door, the front door. So suddenly we had no shovel and because yeah, exactly. We don't know whose responsibility it is. So I introduced a bill that would require snow removal to be included in a lease. But in order for that to work, I had to put a default provision because there's no entity that reviews every lease to make sure that this would be included. So I said, unless it's in the lease, responsibility defaults to the landlord, but they can put whatever they want in the lease.
Right.
And I just had all these real estate and all these landlord groups coming out saying the bill says this when the bill doesn't. It's not fair to mom and pop landlords who maybe can't afford snow removal. It's like, well, it's kind of the cost of doing business, isn't it? If you're going to
Well, but
manage a property
Lily,
when people live.
But Lily, you also had in it, this was a default, that the
Hmm.
default, unless otherwise stated, so you could have a landlord or landlady or land couple or land entity
Mm.
that have a lease agreement that says we are not responsible, you are responsible. That was still available and able to be put in. It just changed the default and the baseline. And
Yeah,
so, Neil, I
exactly.
think this is where it comes into those kind of special interests. And I have to say, my husband and I have been landlords and landlady. Like we understand this. And when you're making a lease agreement, that should be part of the conversation, right? And I think having the clear expectations, and Lily, you and I talked about this
Mm.
legislation, right? Having clear expectations in an agreement makes for good agreements, period. Right. And so this is a piece of legislation to make clear agreements and still allowed for personalizing or changing that on a need based perspective, right? And so it didn't say, oh, it's illegal for a landlord or landlady to require the tenants to remove their own snow. It did not say that. It simply said the default will be on the landlord or landlady, not the tenant, right? That's it. That's it. And then you get all this uproar instead of being like, oh, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's have a clear basis. And then we can change it based on a situational need, right? But that at least it protects the tenants and gives a baseline of clear expectation on landlord, landlady, tenant agreements, right?
Yeah.
And it can protect the landlords too,
Right.
because if it's in the lease, well, the tenant is responsible. Then if somebody slips on the front stairs, they can say, well, this was a breach of the lease. Um, and I made this point. I was like, leases are contracts.
Right.
We should want contracts to have the most clarity possible. That's why we have leases and not just say, okay, yeah, you can live here, because
Right.
we want these to be enforceable.
Right.
So
And so
I
you
was
have
just,
this very basic thing become volatile, right? And that seems to
mm-hmm,
be the climate in Concord, that some of these things are very basic and it's becoming so volatile. It feels like everybody is kind of boiling at the top, right? And so I'm wondering what else are you seeing in terms of legislation, and how do we bring the temperature down? How do we bring people back to the table? What are you seeing from community involvement? Because I think there's been a lot more awareness of how people can get involved in voicing their opinions about legislation. And we can get into that right when we conclude. But what are you seeing, Lily, and how do you think we can bring the temperature down to actually get things done in Concord?
well, honestly, I think
Mm-hmm.
that so much of what you see on like the floor is just so performative. because it's for, these people who are funding them. It's not for the voters.
Mm.
And it's not, I mean, everything is streamed on YouTube. Every session, every committee, um, people just have to know that they can find it.
So that's really
But
important for viewers to know. New Hampshire folks, you can see all of these hearings, all of the actions within the legislation on YouTube, right?
yeah,
Yep.
exactly. Because people just need to be held accountable by voters. Because some of the stuff that I have heard, so I sit on the State Federal Relations and Veterans Affairs Committee, but if somebody is missing, sometimes one of us, if we have free time, will go sit in on a committee. And I was in science, technology, and energy. Most of that stuff goes way over my head because I am a renter. I just pay the
Right.
utilities that were already hooked up to the building. But one rep said, we were trying to, I say we as the Democrats, to provide more competition for electricity services, because even if you have another source of electric, especially in Manchester, um, it's using Eversource's poles.
Right.
So
Right.
the delivery charges are what hit you. And my constituents have been talking about this. We've had listening sessions, and the energy stuff comes up all the time.
Yep.
And one of the reps said, well, it doesn't matter that Eversource has a monopoly, because if people aren't happy with Eversource, they can just call and complain. Yeah, that is how monopolies work. Yeah, they're famously responsive to customer outcry. It's like, are you people the
I love
party of
I
Teddy
love
Roosevelt or not?
right. I love the New England sarcasm coming in there, Lily. Because it's true. We have just a few minutes left here and we have so much more to talk about, but I want to make sure that people know how to get in touch with you, how to watch what's going on in the legislation. And so can you just let people know how to track what's happening up in Concord? There's a website, right? People can sign in to voice their opinions on bills if they can't get to Concord, which is a lot of us who are working, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Another good way is you can find, and I tell people this, find out what committee is hearing the bill that's important to you, and you can email all the members of the committee. That
Great.
way it goes to their inbox. They can't, they don't have to go somewhere else to look at the online testimony. You can call a lot of them too. Fill up that voicemail box. You are our bosses. We work for you. Hold us accountable. Yeah, exactly. So
And
just,
that's exactly it, Lily. And I know you're running again, which I'm very excited about. I really appreciate your
yes.
voice in Concord. Neil, did you want to chime in on any of this? I
I
know
mean, this
we
is really just great. I think this is it. Being active. People don't know about these local bills like that one. It makes sense. Why is there bipartisanship? Why doesn't everyone, I mean, why isn't there bipartisanship? Work together to get it done.
right.
Not because I'm only going to vote for something that's on my side of as a bill, instead of
Right.
working together to make, your community the best they can. So, yeah.
Yep, legislation should serve the people, and government should make our lives collectively better, not harder. So, really appreciate the work that you're doing. And Concord Lily, full support. This is Talk to Me with Sarah C. and Neil Haley. If you would like to reach out to us, that is talk to me, all spelled out at sarahc603.com. And thank you so much for tuning in.
All right. That was a special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show and Talk to Me with Sarah C.